for deep and meaningful relationships?
Difficulty in understanding others is another risk. The rigid walls we build around ourselves create difficulties in understanding and empathizing with others. We find it challenging to accept and grasp their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, resulting in a lack of connection and empathy.
And the final risk is blocking meaningful connections. While these boundaries are meant to protect us from potential harm, they also block the entry of positive experiences and connections. The fear of being hurt leads us to shut out not only negative influences, but also the potential for joy, growth, and authentic relationships.
The spectrum of dysfunctional boundaries highlights the delicate balance between openness and protection that we all strive to achieve. Whether overly open or impenetrable, these patterns can hinder our ability to foster healthy relationships and navigate the complexities of human connection. Recognizing these patterns and finding ways to strike a harmonious balance is crucial for cultivating meaningful and fulfilling interactions while safeguarding our emotional well-being.
So, have you ever felt that your boundaries were too open, allowing others' words or actions to deeply affect you?
Probably. I do know that, especially when I was younger, specifically in 6th grade. Yes, I'm bringing that up yet again.
That was a rough time for you, man.
Yeah. I ended up having a lot of fights with a close friend of mine, and we, said stuff to each other that, we never actually meant, but it always hurt when it happened, and I kind of feel like I did kind of let whatever they said to me get to me a little too much, and, whenever anyone said anything to me, I, took it to heart. So, yeah, especially before I learned how to control some of my emotions, I was a little more open with my boundaries, and other people's words did hurt me.
So, can you think of a time when you might have put up strong barriers to protect yourself, but it resulted in feeling disconnected or isolated, where those barriers kind of backfired on you?
Probably that was almost the immediate after effect of having too open boundaries. I was kind of like, okay, I kind of need to change all this. So instead of lashing out at people or trying to have let other people's words get to me, I kind of shut off, and I didn't really show anyone how I truly felt, and I kind of shut myself off. I wasn't really that social with anybody, and I was kind of just, okay, I'm just going to be stuck with the few friends that I have right now, and, I'm not going to, expand from that. I also think the pandemic also had a major effect on that at that point, because I was not the most social person at the time, and then the pandemic hit and I became even less social.
So, when that happened, how did you realize that your boundaries were too rigid?
I kind of figured that out when it came to, I guess, just how much I was not willing to be near people. I did not want to. I never would have said that I had social anxiety when I was younger, but now I think I do, because of just how rigid my boundaries were, because I can't even talk to a cashier normally without, being anxious about what I'm going to say or what they're going to think of me. It's kind of like a culmination of both of them, where it's like my boundaries are so rigid that I do not like talking to people and I become anxious, but then my boundaries were so open at one point to the point where, but then I also didn't have many close relationships to where I wouldn't have to be like, oh, well, I don't know what they're going to think of me.
Interesting. So, how do you find balance? Do you find balance between being open to meaningful connections and protecting yourself from potential harm? Are you at a balance point now, or is it tilted one way or the other?
I'd say that while it's certainly not good, it's definitely a lot more balanced than it used to be. I have friends and people that I rely on when it comes to needing to be mentally and emotionally vulnerable to people. And, that kind of helps me get through some of the issues that I have. In other instances, I've also kind of shut out people or not really engaged with people who who I don't really think would help me in those situations. While it could definitely be a lot better than it is now, because I'm still kind of struggling with it, I definitely think it's a lot better. I have kind of a system with it now, so it's at least a little better than it was.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, that's with people outside the immediate family there. How do you find your balance with family members now? I know we don't see a lot of the extended family as frequently as we used to. And one of the things, the proverbial, hugs from the rest of the family, or the infamous pinching of the cheeks and all that stuff. Do you find when you have those limited interactions with the extended family that your boundaries are at a comfortable level, or do you think you need to make adjustments?
There's some adjustments I need to make with some of my family members, but otherwise, a lot of them are really, um, I don't really know what the best word is, but a good portion of them understand the idea of consent, and I've made it clear to them specifically my boundaries when it comes to physical touch, and like now they always ask like if I actually want a hug, and they always make sure to ask before going in for a hug. I still have some family members that I haven't directly told that with, and they just kind of hug me without asking, which it kind of gets me a little uncomfortable, but it's something I can probably work on.
Now, do you feel, for the most part, that you're setting your boundaries and those boundaries aren't being set for you? Or do you feel that it's more an outside influence setting those boundaries?
I think it can be kind of like it can be kind of mixed between that. I certainly have my own boundaries when it comes to a lot of things when it comes to my interactions with other people. But when it comes to other people setting boundaries with me, I always make sure to respect them. And I kind of have there's certain instances where I provide that vulnerability for my friend, or we kind of just joke around often enough, and we're kind of just an escape from reality with each other. I feel like, they all have their own boundaries with me, and if I ever accidentally cross their boundaries, they'll let me know.
Okay. So the notion of boundaries expands into the concept of containment, which involves safeguarding others from our physical, emotional, and verbal behaviors. This dual aspect of containment, its absence and its excess, both serve as indicators of dysfunctional boundaries that have far-reaching implications in our interactions.
The lack of containment can be traced back to two primary sources. Firstly, growing up with a parent who displayed uncontained behavior can influence a child to mimic similar actions. Additionally, when caregivers fail to address dysfunctional behavior in a child, it can contribute to a lack of containment. The behaviors associated with a lack of containment encompass encroaching on personal space by standing too close to others, invading boundaries by touching people or their belongings without seeking permission, engaging in unfiltered speech that may lead to hurtful remarks, reacting impulsively without considering the potential consequences, struggling to manage emotions or energy resulting in emotional outbursts, and evading personal responsibility by placing blame on others for one's actions.
Dysfunctional boundaries can also manifest as an excessive sense of containment, effectively constructing emotional walls. This pattern gives rise to distinct behaviors such as rarely initiating physical contact with others due to apprehension or discomfort, suppressing personal desires and needs due to the anticipation that they won't be fulfilled, intensely focusing on avoiding any actions that might upset or offend others, often at the expense of one's own authenticity, and striving for perfectionism as a defense mechanism against the deep-seated fear of abandonment.
The interconnectedness between boundaries and containment is of great significance. Sorry. Dysfunctional boundaries can manifest as either a lack of containment involving behaviors that disregard personal boundaries, or excessive containment, which results in emotional detachment and avoidance of authentic self-expression. Recognizing these patterns and delving into their underlying causes is pivotal in the journey to foster healthier, more balanced, and meaningful interpersonal interactions.
So, have you ever experienced or witnessed situations where someone's behavior felt uncontained, like invading personal space or reacting impulsively?
I actually have two examples of friends, one that was a while ago and one that's actually more current, where I do feel like their boundaries, they were kind of uncontained. I had one friend who, like, it was the friend that I also kind of fought with when I was younger. I don't really know if they understood the concept of boundaries, but they certainly had instances where they clearly broke boundaries. They were way more comfortable in certain things, and they thought that doing certain things was fine when it really wasn't. And then I have a friend currently now that is in my gym class, and I have like a group of friends there, and they all started to have issues with this friend because they would like touch them like spontaneously, and one of them is very insistent on the idea of consent when it comes to being touched, and there was like conflict between them, and they ended up, I think, fighting over it, or like they had friends that fought over it because of it. And I'm still friends with that person, but I have noticed that like they do tend to, touch their friends without really asking, and I don't really think it's necessarily their fault, but it certainly is something to consider.
Interesting. Now, on the other side of the coin, can you identify times when you or someone you may know may have shown signs of excessive containment, like avoiding physical contact or suppressing personal needs, but from a detrimental standpoint to that person?
That probably more so encompasses me. The minute you were reading off like all the effects of that, I'm like, wow, I feel called out. And I'm pretty sure some of it probably is a bit detrimental to me because I am a perfectionist and I don't want to feel like I'm failing anyone. And I usually avoid confrontation with people because I don't want to be yelled at and I don't want other people to be annoyed by my presence. So I kind of avoid a lot of the confrontations, and maybe if I had actually gone and, talked through stuff, or I actually had done things that I avoided, maybe things would have turned out better for me. And like, even without considering the possibility of what could have happened if I did take that step, or the steps, I do feel like it's still kind of detrimental to me because, at least in the sense of self-worth, because I am a perfectionist and I don't want to be abandoned or be not just I don't want my friends to see me in a negative light because I'm not perfect. And even though I understand that, nobody's perfect and like perfection is something that I just can't achieve, I still constantly try to do so, and and it also makes me actively avoid certain things because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know how I'm going to do this perfectly. I don't want to screw up.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a real source of anxiety for you at that point. So do you think you can find a balance between respecting others' boundaries and not overly containing yourself?
I mean, probably. The big step would probably be getting rid of my social anxiety. Finding ways of dealing with my anxiety, I feel like, is probably the best sense in what I need to do. That would at least help me, because I'm not an overly uncontained person. I'm an overly contained person. And a lot of the containment usually comes from some sort of anxiety or the perfectionism that I have. And maybe if I ended up working on that or trying to find the source of that, or just generally doing things to help fix my anxiety, or at least downplay it to the point where it isn't detrimental to me, maybe then I would be able to find a better balance.
Okay. Well, I think there's a solution out there somewhere. We're going to take a second break here, and when we come back, we're actually going to talk about healing dysfunctional boundaries. We'll be right back.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about boundaries and why they matter. And now we're going to talk about healing dysfunctional boundaries. Therapists are equipped with a diverse array of methods to guide adolescents and families through the journey of healing dysfunctional boundaries. This process commences with the essential step of identifying the unhealthy patterns and behaviors that have taken root. Questions will tend to emerge. Are we too vulnerable or too closed off? Are we transgressing boundaries or maintaining an excessive distance?
For those who have encountered relational trauma, specialized therapists play a pivotal role in helping clients pinpoint triggers that lead to unhealthy behavior stemming from these dysfunctional boundaries. The key focus is on clients striving to enhance containment. This involves honing skills in emotional regulation, allowing individuals to tap into self-soothing mechanisms, and reducing reliance on nervous verbalizing or overdependence on external sources for comfort.
Several therapeutic modalities are harnessed to treat dysfunctional boundaries and relational trauma. So, first up, we have
good luck with that one. Dialectical
behavioral therapy, or DBT. DBT offers a structured approach that aids individuals in acknowledging and managing the unhealthy behaviors that often mask underlying issues. Collaboratively with therapists, clients craft strategies to modify these patterns, fostering positive changes.
You also have cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. With CBT, individuals embark on the journey of recognizing and reshaping negative thought and behavioral patterns. This shift gradually cultivates a more optimistic mindset and constructive actions.
There's also mindfulness. The adoption of mindfulness practices such as yoga and meditation nurtures heightened self-awareness. This, in turn, acts as an emotional shield, imbuing tranquility and fostering sensitivity to respecting the boundaries of others.
There's also somatic therapies. Delving into somatic therapies underscores the interconnectedness of the body and mind. These therapies prove particularly beneficial for those on a journey of trauma recovery, addressing emotional and physical aspects.
And finally, there's experimental therapies. Creative modalities like art therapy, music therapy, adventure therapy, and...
So that's experiential therapies, not experimental therapies. Experiential.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
For those at home.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Creative modalities like art therapy, music therapy, adventure therapy, and...
Equine therapy. You know what that is?
No.
Horses.
Oh.
Grooming them, riding them, taking care of them.
Anyway, they all they all offer alternative avenues for self-expression. Beyond this, they bolster self-esteem and create platforms for communication when verbal articulation might pose challenges, like right now.
The spectrum of strategies employed by therapists reflects their commitment to aiding teenagers and families in the journey towards healing dysfunctional boundaries. The emphasis spans from recognizing the unhealthy behaviors and their triggers to engaging in the proper therapies suited for the unique situation and patient. These multifaceted approaches combine forces to steer individuals through the labyrinth of relational trauma, nurturing healthier patterns of interaction and expression. Now, one of those we've talked about numerous times, mindfulness, on the podcast itself, which I know we've tried some of that stuff. And some of these things, while not done under the guise of a professional therapist, some of these things we've kind of tried ourselves. I mean, your version of equine therapy is really feline therapy for you. One of your emotional support animals that we have around the house, we got a bunch of them are cats. How do you kind of tap into these things, these different therapies that might not register immediately as a therapy, to try to bring that balance of these boundaries to you?
Well, usually they kind of like with everything, they kind of allow me to kind of step back and, focus on something that I am comfortable with. If someone ended up crossing my boundary, or if something happened with that made me uncomfortable, I can take some time, step back, do something I enjoy, spend some time with cats, and just chill, pretty much.
Just chill, yeah. I mean, that's probably the ultimate therapy out there, is just getting yourself to that comfort state. So when thinking about your own boundaries and relationships, can you identify any patterns that might be considered unhealthy, like being too open or too closed off?
I think I've mentioned it before that I do think I'm a little too closed off when it comes to things, and I guess that's also why I have a friend that wants to expand my boundaries, because I limit myself a lot, and I understand that I limit myself. You guys have also mentioned how I limit myself in the sense of, while I'm able to go out and drive and I have that freedom, I don't. I've only done it once, and I kind of don't want to do it ever again.
What are your thoughts on using creative or experiential therapies like art therapy or equine or feline to address relational issues and boundaries and problems?
Again, I feel like they can kind of be a way to step out of that reality and into another reality that is either something you can do creatively or something that just makes you feel good. I feel like you normally use that sort of stuff as a way to step back from issues that stress me out or things that don't make me comfortable, as a way to find a sense of comfort and to, like I said, chill. And I feel like a lot of people could benefit from having something that can help them calm down if they've had a stressful day, or if someone said something to them that they didn't like, or if just any really bad thing happened. That, I hope everyone has at least something that they can go to that makes them feel calm, or at least makes them feel good.
So aside from the obvious observation that you might be overly contained sometimes, do you think the boundaries that you live by on a day-to-day basis are adequate for you, or do you think you need to evaluate maybe making some adjustments to them?
I mean, I probably need to make adjustments to the fact that I don't really like talking to strangers, and my boundary is kind of like, if you want to talk to me, you come up to me and do so. And because obviously there's going to be instances where I'm going to have to go up and talk to somebody else, like at a register. I can't wait for them to, come up and say, "Are you finished with all your items? Would you like me to help you with that?" And it's like, I can't expect that, because that's not how that works. You kind of have to be the one to initiate that. And I feel like my boundary of waiting for other people to initiate stuff is something that not only can I benefit from in the sense of the practical reason, but also the fact that I'll be able to initiate conversations with other people and hopefully form meaningful relationships that way, rather than just waiting for them to come and talk to me instead of me going to talk to them.
Well, it sounds like the boundaries that you have right now serve you well for the most part. And it sounds like where they don't serve you, you're aware of those shortcomings. It's just a matter of addressing those. So I think that's really the important thing is you're doing a pretty good job coping with things the way they are with the current boundaries, but you recognize where there's room for some growth. And thankfully that growth is being encouraged by some of your friends too, in a, would you say, healthy way?
Yeah, because, like, none of my friends are doing it in any sort of malicious way. They joke about it, but, like, my friends genuinely want me to, like, go out, do some clubs, do some stuff with the school, or, you know, they'll ask me, hey, you want to hang out? Because they know I'm usually never one to do.
Right.
So.
Well, that's good. It's good that they're encouraging you instead of pressuring you. I think that itself is indicative of, one, good friends, two, boundaries that can be expanded without too much pain. So I think that's a good thing. But I think that was all we had for the topic and the show today. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll get your closing thoughts and remarks. We'll be right back.
All right, so to everyone out there, I'm just going to restate the title of the podcast. Boundaries matter. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people could, you know, learn to understand. And much like with everything in life, there's obviously a middle ground from going too far off one end and too far off the other end. If you're too overly open or overly uncontained, you can start to make other people feel uncomfortable, or you yourself are a little too vulnerable when it comes to everything and you're not able to, you know, feel secure with yourself or around others. Meanwhile, if you're like me and you're too closed off and unwilling to break your own boundaries for the sake of talking with other people, that's also kind of an issue as well, because you could also be harming yourself. So finding a way of balance between the two of them, I feel like, is something important. And obviously, it's probably not going to be super easy, considering I'm still struggling with it myself. So, you know, keep going at it. You're doing great.
Nice. And I think it's sage advice, because boundaries change. They're situational. They're different from person to person, from situation to situation. And sometimes there's that awkwardness of trying to figure out those boundaries and where their comfort level is until you can kind of get them dialed in. Nothing is just going to come automatically like that. You kind of you have to feel it out. And having other people in your life that help you and are interested in your best interest and are helping you to expand those and deal with those boundaries, I think that's a blessing in life. So that was all we had today. Before we do go, I want to once again invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. Audio versions of this podcast can be found listed as Insights into Teens, and audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts, including our new affiliate podcast, No Credits Rolled, can be found at Insights into Things. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, etc., etc. We would also invite your feedback. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. We are on Twitter or X at insights_things. We have high-res videos of all of our episodes available on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings. We do stream 5 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings. And you can find links to all this and more on our website at www.insightsintothings.com. One final word, we've gotten a number of folks reaching out to us about appearing on the podcast. We are working through those requests now to try to schedule interviews and get them on the calendar now that we're back to recording, and hopefully we'll stick to recording consistently with all the podcasts moving forward. So I appreciate everyone's feedback. We will be reaching out shortly to set things up, and hopefully we have some exciting podcasts coming in the near future. But that's it for today. Another one in the books.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into Teens. This is episode 179, Fighting in School. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my calm and collected co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing today, Maddie?
Doing all right. How about you?
Doing okay. So this is the last in our, controversial series that we were doing. A little bit more light than I think last week. Last week we were kind of somber and serious, but for good reason. So we are back this week with something a little bit more lightweight, but no less, controversial.
And impactful, I'd say.
And definitely impactful. Before we get into all that, anything exciting happened to you this week?
Not entirely.
Well, a little controversy about your school schedule that we have to sort out still.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, school's starting, so that's fun.
That's exciting. Is that starting next week?
Yep, Thursday.
Wow, that's some exciting stuff there.
Yeah.
Your enthusiasm is just overwhelming.
Yeah, considering how it's going so far, or how I think it's going to go, it's like, yeah.
Well,
great.
We will make the best of it. So in light of you going back to school next week, we have been holding on to this topic for a while now. We'd actually done the research and prep for it before summer, actually, before school let out. But we just sort of never got to it in the series before school let out, and seemed kind of silly talking about fighting in school in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So it was kind of out of context. So I wanted to wait until we were closer to school. So on this episode of Insights into Teens, we delve into the hidden layers of school violence. Beyond the shocking headlines lie the pervasive issues of bullying, insecurity, and Star Wars music in the background from our video game.
Yep.
We'll discuss the often overlooked factors that contribute to this critical problem. We'll explore its impact on students, teachers, and others. And we'll uncover strategies to effectively address and prevent school violence. But as always, before we get to that, I wanted to once again invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. You can find audio and video versions of all of the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. And we're pretty much anywhere you get a podcast these days. Apple, Spotify, Google, not Stitcher because they're going away at the end of the month, which is tomorrow, I think. But anyway, you know where to get our podcast at this point. I would also invite you to write in and give us your feedback. I mean, we talked about some pretty hard-hitting, controversial, spirited topics over the last 9 episodes or so. I'd love to get people's feedback on them. And just let us know other stuff you'd like us to talk about. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. You can hit us up on Twitter or X or whatever Elon's calling it this week. We're at insights_things. Or you can get links to all that and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. Shall we get started?
Yes.
Here we go. So what is school violence? So our initial research we took from verywellmind.com, a site we use quite frequently. They tell us that school violence isn't confined to the dramatic headlines. It's a pervasive issue that affects 246 million children annually. This problem isn't gender neutral either, as girls and gender non-conforming individuals bear a disproportionate brunt of it.